You're just standing at the sink.
Right.
You've done this, 1,000 times. You're just washing a plate, the water is warm, you're maybe half listening to something in the background or, just staring out the window.
Yeah, just totally on autopilot.
Exactly. And then, out of nowhere, the air in the room just shifts. It's not even a loud thought. It's more like this whisper that drops like a lead weight right into your stomach. And it just says, this isn't working.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that feeling.
Right. Not the job, not the relationship, maybe not even the way you'd talk to yourself in the mirror every single morning. But for a split second, you just see it. Undeniable.
It's completely raw.
So raw. The heat rises in your belly, your chest tightens up, your throat closes, and what do? Immediately you reach for your phone.
Oh, absolutely. Or you turn on the TV.
Yeah, you mentally just go, nope, not right now.
It's because the body reacts before the mind even has time to, formulate any kind of defense. We feel that dread, that sudden rush of clarity, and we immediately interpret it as a breakdown.
We think we're just falling apart.
Exactly. We think I am falling apart. But the clinical perspective on this, especially from the sources we're looking at today, well, it flips that script entirely.
Which is so fascinating.
It really is, because this isn't a breakdown. It is actually a breakthrough. In Gestalt practice, this exact moment has a name. It's called contact.
Contact.
Yeah. It is a sudden, unfiltered meeting between who you are and what truly is. And it just demands your absolute presence.
And it is completely terrifying. If you are listening to this right now and you've ever felt that moment where the ground just vanishes beneath your feet and your immediate instinct was to sprint in the exact opposite direction, you are so not alone.
No, not at all. It's such a universal human experience.
It really is. And that visceral reaction, that is our target today. For this deep dive, we've pulled together a stack of clinical psychology research focusing really specifically on these foundational texts in Gestalt therapy.
Right, getting into the actual mechanics of it.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the actual machinery of our avoidance. We want to figure out why our brains and bodies just run from the truth and, well, how to stop running.
Yeah, how to actually stay in the room with it.
So we're asking you to maybe just slow down, drop your defenses just for a little bit, and sit in the raw weather of your own experience with us.
And, it's a really challenging place to sit because of what we call the paradox of insight.
Okay, the paradox of insight. Tell me about that.
Well, we tend to think of insight as this, beautiful light bulb moment of liberation, right? Like the clouds part and suddenly everything makes sense.
Cue the angel choir.
Exactly. But when it actually arrives in our nervous system, it often feels like a profound loss. It strips away our insulation.
Oh. Stripping away the insulation.
Yeah. Imagine that for your entire life, you have been walking around wearing these incredibly thick, heavy winter gloves.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You touch the world, but everything is muckled. It's safe, it's predictable, you don't get scratched by anything.
Right, because there's this barrier.
Exactly. And then, one day, insight arrives and just pulls off one single finger of that glove.
Oh, man. And suddenly you feel everything.
Everything. The rough, abrasive bark of a tree, the biting sting of cold metal, even the actual radiating warmth of another person's hand.
It's just too much all at once.
The texture of reality is suddenly right there against your bare skin, and it is overwhelmingly intense. So, of course, the natural physiological reaction is to just yank the glove back on.
You just retreat right back into the insulation.
Because insight forces you into the here and now. Not the neat little story you tell yourself about your life, but the actual jagged, often super uncomfortable texture of it.
Okay, I really want to unpack this because I deeply, deeply resonate with that instinct of just yank the glove back on.
Most of us do.
When I feel that overwhelming sensation, my immediate urge is to label it so I can control it. I'll feel that tightness in my chest and immediately tell myself, oh, it's just stress from work. Or it's just a lack of sleep.
Right. You try to box it up.
I totally box it up.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a little here on the texts. If taking the glove off is truly that overwhelming, and reality is that jagged, why not just keep the gloves on?
That's the real question, isn't it?
Honestly, what is the actual cost of staying numb? If the insulation gets me through the day, why disturb it?
Well, the insulation works brilliantly for survival. It gets you through the day, but it fundamentally disables your vitality.
Disables your vitality.
Yeah. The cost of staying numb to the pain is that you also numb yourself to joy, to connection, and to your own life force. When we quickly label our feelings, like you mentioned, calling it just stress to control it, we are totally bypassing the actual physical experience.
We're thinking about the feeling instead of feeling it.
Exactly, and this is where the clinical practice of phenomenology comes into play in these sources. Phenomenology is just the practice of describing your experience without layering it with judgment or theory or labels.
So instead of jumping straight to "I am broken" or "I am having a massive anxiety attack,"
You strip away the narrative entirely. You simply notice the physical reality, like there is a trembling in my hands, or my shoulders feel incredibly heavy right now.
my throat is tight.
Right. You don't try to fix it or flee from it or flatten out. You just let the raw, unnamed presence be exactly what it is.
That sounds so simple, but so incredibly hard.
It is hard. But the pain you feel in that moment of realization isn't actually the truth itself hurting you. The pain lives in the gap between the false story you've been living and the emerging truth you now see.
Oh wow, the pain is the gap.
Yes. And we are deeply conditioned to hide from that gap.
We are absolute professionals at hiding from it. I know when I feel an existential crisis coming on, suddenly my Tupperware drawer desperately needs to be aggressively color-coded.
Right. The house has never been cleaner.
Oh, I will reorganize my entire kitchen to avoid feeling an emotion. And we often judge ourselves so harshly for that retreat. We think we're being weak or like cowardly when we distract ourselves.
But we don't pathologize avoidance in this framework at all. We actually honor it.
Really, we honor the avoidance.
Yes. Avoidance is a highly intelligent survival strategy. It is the part of you that learned very early on that some truths were simply too dangerous to hold.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think about a child who sees their parents rage and learns to quietly say, "I'm fine," just to keep the peace in the house. Or the adult who numbs their deep longing for connection with just endless work because somewhere along the line they learned that vulnerability was a dangerous risk.
So it kept them safe. It's an adaptation.
Exactly. The tragedy isn't that we develop these defenses. The tragedy is that what once kept us safe is now the exact thing keeping us stuck.
So how do we get unstuck?
To understand that, we have to look at the mechanics of what adult therapy calls the experience cycle.
The experience cycle, okay.
There's a natural biological rhythm to how human beings process reality and move energy through their bodies. It happens in stages. First sensation, then awareness, mobilization, action, contact, satisfaction, and finally withdrawal.
Okay, let's slow that down and walk through how that cycle actually operates mechanically. Because listing the stages is one thing, but how does this play out in real time?
Let's use an example.
Yeah, let's say I'm in a meeting and someone completely talks over me and just takes credit for my idea.
Okay, perfect. Let's track the energy there. Stage 1 is sensation. You feel a sudden heat in your face, maybe a tightness in your stomach. It's purely physical.
Right.
Stage 2 is awareness. Your brain catches up to the body and says, "Oh, I am angry. I was just disrespected."
Okay, I'm tracking.
Stage 3 is mobilization. This is crucial.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is now pumping adrenaline, your breathing quickens, your vocal cords tighten, your body is physically mobilizing energy to do something about the problem.
So my body is prepping me to speak up and defend myself.
Exactly, which is stage 4 action. You speak up, you say, "Excuse me, that was my proposal."
I draw the line.
Yes. Stage 5 is contact. The boundary is drawn, the truth is out in the open. Then stage 6 is satisfaction, where the need is met and the adrenaline begins to recede.
And then the final stage.
Stage 7 is withdrawal, where the energy fully settles and you return to a resting state. The cycle completes.
But that's like the ideal clean version. Right? What happens to most of us is we hit the brakes.
Exactly.
I feel the heat, I realize I'm angry, my heart starts pounding, but instead of speaking up, I just swallow it. I force a smile. I make some self-deprecating joke to ease the tension.
And that is an interruption. You mobilized a massive amount of physiological energy, adrenaline, cortisol, muscular tension, and then you just trapped it. You didn't let it flow into action.
We do this constantly, don't we?
All day long, we deflect with humor, we spiritualize our pain, we pull back from intimacy just when it gets real.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like trying to run a high-end video editing software on your computer while like 10 different antivirus scans are running in the background.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to picture it.
Right. The CPU is completely maxed out, the fan is screaming, the laptop is burning hot, but absolutely nothing is happening on the screen. The system is just paralyzed by its own background processes.
That is the perfect mechanical analogy. And that maxed out CPU, that is the constant background hum of exhaustion and anxiety that so many people walk around with.
Because all those programs are still running.
Yes. It takes an immense amount of physical and psychic energy to suppress mobilized emotion. Every single time you interrupt that cycle, you are leaving a piece of yourself unfinished.
Yeah, it just piles up.
It does. Over time, those suppressed actions don't just evaporate, they accumulate in the body.
Which naturally leads to my next question.
Yeah.
If my CPU is maxed out with all this trapped, mobilized energy, it has to go somewhere, right?
Yep.
We don't just sit there vibrating forever.
Right, it doesn't just disappear.
So if the body is trapping all this unresolved tension because we absolutely refuse to feel it, how does it leak out? Do we start taking it out on other people?
We hurl it outward. When the internal pressure becomes too dangerous to hold, the psyche uses a mechanism called projection. Yes, projection is displacement. It is taking the parts of your own experience that you have disowned, or the energy you have trapped, and just pasting it onto someone else.
So instead of admitting I'm furious about my own unmet needs, I look at my partner and suddenly they are the most selfish person on the planet.
Precisely.
It's like having a broken flashing warning light on your own dashboard. But instead of taking your car to the mechanic, you roll down your window and scream at every other driver on the highway that their engines are smoking.
That's exactly it. And it's a highly effective illusion. Projection keeps the parts of yourself that you fear, your anger, your neediness, your vulnerability, at a really safe distance. You get to judge them from afar.
Then what happens at the kitchen sink?
When that moment of truth hits you at the sink, insight forcefully pulls those projections back home. The nervous system recognizes that the truth is returning, and it sounds the alarm.
That's why the stomach drops.
Yes. Your body clenches, your throat closes, because it is remembering every single time in the past when seeing clearly or speaking up was punished. Your physiology is just trying to protect you from the consequences of completing the cycle.
So my body is screaming danger, and my mind has spent years blaming everyone else to keep me insulated.
Right.
How do I actually shift this? How do I take responsibility for my own dashboard warning lights without just spiraling into intense, crushing self-blame? The idea of suddenly owning all the anger and fear I've been running from sounds agonizing.
It is agonizing if you equate responsibility with moral failing. But the texts we're looking at ask us to completely redefine what responsibility means here.
Okay.
It does not mean saying, this is all my fault, I am a terrible person. In this framework, responsibility means responsibility. Literally, your ability to respond.
Responsibility. I like that.
It is your agency to respond to what is actually true right now, rather than reacting automatically from those old, protective, maxed out CPU patterns. It means looking at your life and saying, this is mine to hold.
This is mine to hold. Man, that shifts the weight of it entirely. It goes from a punishment to almost like a reclamation of power.
It absolutely restores your agency. You are no longer a passive victim of circumstances. You participated in creating your defenses, which means you have the power to dismantle them.
But how do we actually do that?
The primary tool we use to begin holding it is an act of self-contact. Gestalt therapy frequently utilizes this concept of the empty chair.
I've heard of that.
You imagine sitting across from the part of yourself that has been waiting in the shadows, the child who swallowed their grief to keep the peace, or the adult who gave up their voice in that meeting.
I'm going to challenge that a bit, though.
Really?
I'm looking at this empty chair concept, and honestly, it sounds like a recipe for making things worse.
How do you mean?
Well, if I sit down and intentionally poke at a wound that has been safely scabbed over for 10 years, how is that not just going to send me to a massive depressive spiral? Why invite that level of pain back into the room?
Because the wound isn't actually scabbed over. It is actively draining your energy every single day.
Oh. Yeah. The empty chair isn't about wallowing in the past or re-traumatizing yourself. It is about returning to that interrupted experience cycle we talked about earlier so you can finally complete the gesture. Remember the mobilization stage? The adrenaline that had nowhere to go. Empty chair work allows you to finally take the action. It takes immense courage to say out loud or in the quiet of your own heart, I was hurt, or I wanted more, or it wasn't my fault.
So you aren't doing it to change the past, or even to get an apology from someone who might not even be in your life anymore.
Not at all. The other person isn't even the point. You're doing it as an act of self-contact. You are finally allowing that suppressed energy to flow into action, contact, and satisfaction. You are letting the part of you that felt entirely inadequate or overwhelmed finally be seen and heard.
It's closing the background applications so the computer can actually run again.
Exactly.
But I do wonder about the aftermath of that. When we do this, when we finally pull the glove off, face the reality of our trapped energy, and complete the gesture, does it bring final closure? That's a huge question.
Do we get to tie a neat little bow on our history? Or does opening this door just lead to a barrage of new, painful, unanswered questions?
And that right there is the tender, beautiful reality of engaging with this material. Insight is not a destination. It is a doorway.
A doorway.
You might think that having this profound realization at the sink will bring final, static closure, that you will be permanently fixed. But psychological healing isn't about becoming someone entirely new, stripped of all your history.
Right.
It is a quiet homecoming to who you have always been, beneath all the masks and the survival strategies. The pain doesn't vanish, but its mechanics change. It stops being an enemy you have to outrun and becomes a messenger you can actually listen to. And the deeper you go, yes, the more questions arise.
The questions don't stop.
They shouldn't stop. A life without unanswered questions is a life without curiosity or mystery. The tension of the unknown is the very thing that keeps us growing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Opening this doorway doesn't mean you will never feel pain again. It means you now have the responsibility to choose how you interact with it. You choose to speak your truth even if your voice is totally shaking. You choose to let the experience cycle complete itself, even if the emotions are incredibly intense.
You know, what stands out to me the most in all the research we've pulled together today is the total reframing of the pain itself.
Yeah.
Because when truth knocks and it hurts, our immediate cultural conditioning tells us, something is wrong with me. I am broken. I need to fix this right now.
We pathologize it instantly.
But the emotional arc of what we're talking about here flips that completely. The pain you feel when you realize your life isn't working, that tightness in your chest, that dread dropping into your stomach, that isn't proof that you are broken.
No, it's not.
It is proof that you are alive. It is proof that you care.
Yeah,
and most
no.
importantly, it is proof that you are finally paying attention to your own life.
Transformation doesn't begin with forced, aggressive change. It begins with contact, with allowing what is to be fully seen. The truth that unsettles you today is the exact same truth that will set you free tomorrow if you can just bear to stay in the room with it.
Just stay in the room.
But let's look at the bigger picture here for a second. We've been talking about the individual nervous system, but imagine the macro scale.
Okay, zooming out.
What would a society look like if we stopped collectively interrupting our experience cycles? We live in a culture that is almost entirely built on deflection and numbing, an entire society running on the background hum of suppressed panic.
Oh, completely.
If we learn to complete our gestures, to let anger or grief actually cycle through to satisfaction rather than trapping it, the way we relate to each other would fundamentally transform. We wouldn't need to project our disowned shadows onto our neighbors or our politicians or the other side of the world.
Wow. That is a staggering thought.
Yeah.
The idea that world peace might actually start with just letting yourself feel the knot in your stomach at the kitchen sink.
It scales from the micro to the macro. So I want to leave you with an invitation today, a thought to carry with you into your week.
Let's hear it.
The next time you feel that familiar, sudden urge to run, the next time your chest gets tight and you reach blindly for your phone to numb the ache, just pause.
Just wait a second.
Ask yourself, what part of me is waiting in that exact moment of silence to finally be seen? And if you stop looking away, what might that part of you finally have the courage to say?
You're standing at the sink, the water is warm, the whisper comes, and this time, instead of drying your hands and walking away, you just take a breath. You leave the glove off, and you listen.